Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video. So today's video we will be continuing looking at mechanized tactics for the Imperial Guard. So the tactic we're going to be looking at today is a continuation of the Armoured Fist Platoon. For those of you that didn't watch the first part, the Armoured Fist Platoon is basically this concept of taking a formation, a platoon of guard, and meching them up in, my preferred transport is Chimeras, but you could also do it in Tauroxes. The point being is that you have 30 infantry, a couple of officers, and 3 transports. And in a standard 2,000 point game, you'd be looking to run 2 of these formations, giving you 60 infantry and 6 transports, with a solid base of armour and infantry. But also the majority of infantry is going to be main focus of this formation is going to be anti-infantry, just with the nature of the weapons that you can take. But without further ado, we're going to look into a extension of the tactics used by the Armoured Fist Platoon, and we're going to look at the Lone Wolf Squad, or the Lone Squad. Basically, in your 2 Armoured Fist Platoons, you're going to obviously have 6 units. That's the ideal ratio from my playtesting. And what you're going to find is that you want to be taking a couple of squads and putting them on the flanks. Okay, now we'll be talking more about deployment in future videos, but these Lone Wolf Squads you'll often find will be on the flanks, and it'll be essentially the unit's job will be to score some easy points that your opponent isn't really going to be able to do much about. The makeup I like to do with these Lone Wolf Squads, the configuration I should say, is an infantry squad in a Chimera or Taurox with a junior officer. Now some of you were probably wondering, well, why a junior officer? Well, 2 reasons. One, it's 10 points cheaper, and so that's good. You want to be saving points wherever you can. And 2, you need those points for you need those elite choices taking up for the brigade. If you like to run a brigade, I do, and I've found that running a mechanized brigade is very effective. Again, these tactics are really based at 2,000 points. You could scale them down. But really we're looking at 2,000 points here. A standard list, shall we say, a standard competitive list, 2,000 points. But 1,500 points would work as well. And the third reason is that you only really need the 1 order, because again it's going to be 1 squad with a junior officer leading them. So it makes a lot of sense. There's no point in paying for company command if you're never going to use those 2 orders. So the point of the Lone Wolf Squad is to target enemy weak spots on the enemy's flanks. Inevitably, there will be a flank that your opponent will be weaker on. A good example is often your opponent will, and this is very true especially with elite armies, will leave a isolated and small cheap unit on one of his backfield objectives. And he will be relying on the low threat profile of the unit and the relative ease in which he can hide the unit to keep them safe. Now, the thing is that a good example with this would be a minimum unit of cultists, or a minimum unit of Space Marine scouts, or a small tactical Marine squad. Might be some Gretchen. Some either small brood of Gants, but you tend to find Tyranid Gants, they like to get thrown up in the enemy's face, so maybe cheeky Biovore holding an objective, just 1 monster. There's plenty of good examples of cheap little units that a lot of armies like to use to hold objectives, and they sort of rely on drawing your attention away from their minimum objective holders. So the Lone Wolf Squad's really good at just going out and killing those units, because 1, you have the firepower to do that. If you're rocking a Chimera or a Taurox, you are running a significant amount of heavy weapons. In my case, that's two heavy bolters, a heavy stubber, and 6 lasgun shots from a single Chimera. Now I will be running this Chimera up the flank, so I'll be hitting on 5s, but it'll take me 3 turns to get where I want to go. I'm not in a rush. I want to have 3 turns so that's 9 times 3, so that is 27 shots, almost bad at maths there. 27 shots. That's 27 heavy weapon shots, and then a load of 18 lasgun shots as well. That's assuming we're at long range. That will probably soften up one of these enemy units. Now, will it kill the enemy unit? Probably not, but it will soften it up for your infantry squad and officer to get in there and take the objective from them. Now, it's really important that we use an infantry squad for this role and not, let's say, a veteran squad. Now, the reason for that is because the infantry squad has objective secured, and we need to be able to take the objective away from the opponent. Even if the plan goes tits up and we only end up, not doing as much damage as we want, and it gets down to the last couple of turns, and we've only got a few infantry models left, as long as we're able to potentially use objective secured to deny our opponent that objective, that is really, really important. So it's good to have objective secured so that you can take these points away from your enemy. And I have a really good example of this coming up in the Tau versus Steel Legion battle report that I'm hoping to post this week. Now, another good thing that the Lone Wolf squad is very useful for is, let's say it's a mission like Emperor's Will. I don't know if that's the 8th edition term for it, but it's the one where you've both got one objective. Or let's say your opponent has put all his objectives on one side of the table, and it's not really possible for you to send a lone squad out there because he's all castled up. And maybe you've already got, several Lehman Russes or Sentinels and Hellhounds and, Chimeras and squads. They're already making the main thrust at the enemy's position. And, possibly it's not necessary to throw another squad into the meat grinder. Or maybe you've identified, well, he's going to have this objective and this objective, that'll give him so many points. I'll have this objective and this objective, that'll give me so many points, so it's going to come down to secondaries. So in that situation, what the Lone Wolf squad is really good at doing is scoring line breaker. Because what you have in that little package is 3 separate units. You've got a Chimera / Taurox, you've got an infantry squad, and you've got an officer. Now, the Chimera / Taurox is an armoured target. It will take your opponent some effort to destroy it. The infantry squad itself isn't that tough, but again, it's still 10 more wounds. And then they've got to get to the officer, which is another 3 wounds. That's 23 wounds the enemy's got to chew through to deny you line breaker. And remember, this will be, if you've got the main bulk of your forces thrusting at the opponent, drawing the majority of the attention away, then the lone squad will generally be able to act with impunity, because your opponent will see, yes, I've got a squad coming down my flank, but I'm sure I'll be able to deal with that in a few turns. I've just got to deal with all these Lehman Russes and Sentinels and Hellhounds and Chimeras that are actually in my face doing lots of damage to me. What your opponent will also underestimate is how fast your lone squad can get into position and become a nuisance, especially if you're running a Taurox 14-inch movement. Very tasty, because most people will look at an Imperial Guard army and instinctively assume that you are a slow moving force. And as I've said in my last video, that is one of the biggest advantages that going mechanized gives you as a guard player, is it gives you supreme mobility. It doubles your effective movement range, because you go from having a 6-inch movement to a minimum of a 12-inch movement. If you've got a Taurox, like we've said, that's a 14-inch movement. So that really ties in well with the lone squad. People won't really be expecting it to get so close to them. And, by turn 2, that's 28 inches you've moved. You'll be, considering on turn 3 you can jump out of the transport 9 inches. That is a lot of movement that you have going for you. 37 inches of potential threat range in 3 turns, that will get you where you need to go. And it is very, very important to have that mobility, because maybe you've identified it's going to take you 3 or 4 turns of proper firepower to bring that unit that's holding the objective down to a manageable level. Then you don't have to move forward the full whack every turn. Maybe you spend the first 2 turns moving forward, and then you stay still and spend a 3rd turn just doing full ballistic skill damage to the enemy. And then finally, turn 4, you jump out, you use the Taurox to provide, or the Chimera to provide covering fire, and your infantry squad fixes bayonets, up and at 'em, cold steel and balls, gets in amongst them, and takes them down. And you've got the mobility to do that because you were able to get across the field quickly and effectively. But that mobility not only allows you to hit things hard, but it also allows you to bide your time. Often what I find when I'm running my pure infantry army, and I ran a pure infantry army yesterday, it was really, really fun. Pure infantry versus Dark Elder. Man, a lot of casualties on both sides. New Dark Elder Codex is very powerful, but we'll talk about that in another video. What I find with pure infantry is you just have, something I had forgotten whilst, using Mechanised, is you have to be pushing forward every turn of the game, because you are going to be pushing forward 6 inches, and even if you're removing casualties, you'll lose whole squads, you'll lose whole flanks in a turn. So you need to push forward 6 inches every turn, because there's a good chance you're going to get, on average, blown back another 3 inches. So it is really important to be constantly advancing forward with infantry units. But with Mechanised, you've got that more flexibility. You can do a quick bum rush if you need to. And the Lone Wolf squad is really, really good at doing this, because, like I said, it can spend a couple of turns laying down fire and then zoom into position and take an asset away from the enemy very easily. I use these Lone Wolf tactics every single game that I run my Armageddon Steel Legion. It's that good. I absolutely 100% think it is key to running an effective Mechanized list, and it gives you an extra nuance of tactics when you are using your Armoured Fist platoons. So, tell me what you guys think about the Lone Wolf squad. Have you guys been using it independently, or is it something that, that's an interesting new idea, I haven't thought about that before? Please leave lots and lots of comments as always, and of course I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.